Good morning and welcome to our Snapshot. The question we have this morning is, how does a college student who's from America go to Cambodia and reach out to farmers who have not any ability to read? Now that may be an overstatement, but that's basically what Hayden has dealt with. Hayden Sewall is a missionary who's been in Cambodia for the last 5 years and has wrestled with that very question. Hayden shared with me that Cambodians want instant answers to their problems, and those answers were not being provided through Bible, small group study, and booklets. He understood that stories had a powerful way of reaching people, and he began to understand how to approach the Cambodians with stories from the Bible in a way that would intersect with their lives. So I want you to welcome Hayden Sewall as he shares a story with us from the Bible. Welcome, Hayden.
Thank you. That's exactly it. I've been in Asia about 10 years now, and this is something that I've learned especially over the years, is that this has been one of the best ways to kind of get Scripture into people's lives. It's not the only way, so the best thing I know how to do is just to give you a little demo. And this morning in church talked about God's love of children. So this story has something to do with that as well. And I'm going to go right into it. The story begins here. Now there was a certain woman who was the wife of one of the sons of the prophets. And the woman cried out to Elisha, and she said, "You know what a God-fearing man my husband was, and my husband has died, and he left a great debt, and now the creditor is coming to take my 2 children." And Elisha said, "What can I do about this? What do you have in your house?" And the woman said, "I have nothing in my house except this small jar of oil." And Elisha, he said to her, "So take that and go home and borrow all kinds of pots and pans and vessels from your neighbors, and don't just get empty ones, and don't get just a few. And after that, close the door behind you and your son, and pour the bottle of oil into these pots, and do that." And so she did that. She went home. They did what he said. After she'd closed the door behind her, she started to pour into the jars, and one by one she filled them up while her sons brought them. And she said to her son, "Bring me another one." And her son said, "But there aren't any more." And at that moment, the oil stopped. So she went back to the man of God, and she said, she told him everything that happened, and he said, "Go home, sell that oil, and then pay your debt, and then use what is left over for your life." And that's the story. Now, what we usually do in this way is to have one of you repeat back the story. But because of time, what I want to do is kind of walk through the story and ask some questions. So if you can kind of say back the answer to these questions. Now, does anyone remember who that woman's husband was? I heard it. A godly man, a prophet, or one of the sons of the prophets. What was that woman's problem? She's in debt. She's in deep debt. And what was going to happen if she didn't pay that debt? They were going to take her children away. So the man of God, what did he ask her? What did he say? "What do you want me to do, and what do you have in your house?" And what did she have? She had a little bit of oil. And what was the miracle that happened from that experience? She filled up all these jars with that little bit of oil. And so And then the last question I have here is, what was the outcome? Do you remember? The outcome of the she got out of debt. She got out of debt. And remember what what she could use the surplus for? For her to live on. Okay, and so what we've done with that little bit of time that we had was that we kind of learned the story, a big portion of Scripture. And what we'll do is I want to ask you a couple more questions that get underneath the story. And here's the questions I want to ask. One is that who played a part in that woman getting out of her big predicament or problem? Who played parts in that? Can we list some people? Elisha certainly did. He played a big part. Who else, though? Who else played a part in that? Her sons were doing the work. Good. Who else? God. God did. God did. God provided the miracle. Did the woman play a part? She did. How about her neighbors? They did too. Good. And another question I want to ask is, what was the outcome of this woman's, of this miracle? First of all, what was on her mind at the moment? You remember when she came to Elisha, what was her request, or what was her primary, her problem? That's right, and get out of debt. But what was the outcome of this wonderful miracle? That's excellent. Yeah, not only did she get to keep her children, but her day-to-day needs were taken care of. And so I hope what that does is give you a little glimpse of what that story can do. And one more question I want to ask, because you may be wondering, is what in the world does a little story like this have to do with the nation of Cambodia? Because that's what you came to hear about. A little country, poor country on the other side of the world. And what does that have to do with our role in Cambodia? And what does it have to do with the Cambodians' role and God's role? And so those are some questions that you can take home with you and think about as you kind of think about this story. And I can tell you that a story like this has been a blessing for them and for me working there. And not only this one, but lots of others in the Bible. And so a quick little word about what I've done is we have discovered that these stories have so much power. And last year we did a club where we had a Saturday morning kind of film club that we did the stories together through a time of putting it together on film. Little cameras, and this next year we're hoping really to be able to do this in ways that they're able to take it home and do it with their families and friends and villages. And so far it's been really exciting, and God has used the stories in sometimes very surprising ways. And so that's just a little snapshot of what has gone on in Cambodia. And I'll be here to kind of mingle and talk with you.
Thanks, Hayden. Before we give Hayden the opportunity to interact with all of you, we want to take just a few moments and pray for Hayden.